Today's LYT yoga class is called Giddy Up. It's all about that feeling of let's get ready to go, let's do this, let's giddy up. It's a more intermediate class, but you are welcome to take more foundational options at any point. So an example of that would be using the blocks, taking quadruped instead of plank, or taking any other progressions or variations that feel better for you today. You'll need at least one yoga block. If you have two, that's great. And we're gonna get started on our backs. Getting ready for bridge pose. As always, you'll need at least one yoga block. If you have two, that's great. We're gonna lie on our backs and place the block in between the thighs. So it could be at the thinnest setting if that feels better, or maybe the medium setting. And just check that triple S before we get started. Feel the back of your skull on the mat, your shoulder blades, and your sacrum right above your tailbone. We're gonna hug the block between the legs, curl the tailbone up, and then really firm your glutes to lift into a low bridge. So we want to feel like our glutes are wrapping down toward the heels without hiking the pelvis up. So our shoulder blades are going to stay on the mat. Check in with those front ribs. Make sure they're not popping up toward the ceiling, but instead knitting those front ribs in. Hold this feeling of your neutral pelvis, squeezing the block between your legs. And we'll press into the toes, lift and lower the heels with control. So you can choose to do this at whatever pace feels good. But really work on holding that neutral pelvis. So as we're lifting and lowering the heels, we're thinking about the pubic bone lifting up toward the belly button, pelvic points drawing in, chin toward the throat so the neck is in a neutral position. And every once in a while, just check in with those glutes. Make sure they haven't relaxed. With control, keep hugging the block. Slowly lower, upper back, middle back, lower back down, all the way until the sacrum comes down. Let's fire up the core. Hands will come behind the head. Elbows will draw in. We're gonna pick up the feet and lift the legs to whatever degree of straightness feels good. They can be bent, they can be straight, but we want to check and make sure that the sacrum is on the back and we're not tipping the pelvis forward or arching that low back. So hold the sacrum down. Big inhale here. Exhale as you lift up. Chin toward the throat. Knit those front ribs in. Hug the block between your legs. Draw those pelvic points in. Inhale to lower. Exhale as you lift. Chin towards your throat. Knit those front ribs in. Lift the pubic bone to the belly as you hug the block. Inhale to lower. Adding on. Exhale as you lift. Chin towards your throat. Hug the block. Now we're going to internally rotate the hips. So our thighs are going to spiral in toward the block and really feel what that feels like in the outer hips. Come back to neutral. Inhale to lower. Exhale as you lift. Chin toward the throat. Zipper the pubic bone up. We'll do the opposite now. Externally rotate the hips while you hug the block. Back to neutral. Inhale to lower. Exhale as you lift. Chin toward the throat. Knit those front ribs in. This time we'll internally rotate, externally rotate, back to neutral, inhale, lower. Exhale as you lift. Chin toward the throat, pull the belly down toward the sacrum. Externally rotate, keep hugging the block. Internally rotate, spiral the thighs in, back to neutral, inhale to lower. Last one, exhale as you lift. Chin toward the throat, draw the belly button down toward the sacrum. Internally rotate, externally rotate, stay up. We're gonna go one more time. Internally rotate, spiral the thighs in. Externally rotate, back to neutral. Inhale to lower, release it down. Make your way onto quadruped, coming onto hands and knees. Setting up for our neutral quadruped, lift the front of your throat up toward the ceiling so the head isn't dropping down. Feel that neutral scapula, one that's not puffing up or protracting one that's not retracting, but we do want our shoulder blades really tacked onto the back of the ribs. And we'll check that neutral pelvis. Draw those pelvic points in. Lift the pubic bone to the belly. Keep your triple S aligned, skull, scapula, and sacrum. We'll unweight the left knee. Notice if your weight has shifted and really find that neutral alignment. Circle that left hip joint. It's a small circle, kind of like a straw stirring in a cup, and then we'll circle the other way. So we want to circle clockwise and counterclockwise. Make it small enough that the pelvis doesn't move. Lower it down. Recheck that feeling of your triple S or a broom behind your back as you unweight the right knee. Again, notice any shifts in your weight. Press evenly into the hands. Circle that right hip joint, both directions, without letting the pelvis move. So we don't want the back of the pelvis at the sacrum to be moving. We want it to stay really level, like we could balance our block on the back of our sacrum. Lower down. Heading into dolphin pose, lower onto your forearms. You can either have the forearms down with the palms facing down, or you can interlace the hands, especially if you tend to be a little bit tighter in the shoulders. Lift the front of your throat. We'll protract a little bit here. Spread the shoulder blades apart just a little bit. Tuck your toes, just like downward dog as we lift for dolphin. Lift your pelvis straight up toward the ceiling. When it's as high as it can go, walk your feet in even closer. Bend your knees. Think about lifting your hip creases up toward the ceiling without straightening the legs. Now check that pelvis. Draw those pelvic points in. Lift the pubic bone to the belly. Lift up the front ribs toward the back body so we're not sinking into the chest or shoulders. Check your 360 breath. Lower the knees down. Come back to quadruped. Take a few rounds of cat-cow to stretch it out. When you feel ready, you'll tuck your toes, lifting for downward dog. So again, just like dolphin, pelvis lifts straight up, not up and back. When the pelvis is as high as it can be, walk the feet in. Bend your knees. Heels can stay as lifted as you'd like. Feel free to pedal your feet out, but we want that same feeling here that we had in dolphin, of the front ribs lifting up toward the back of the body so that we don't sink down into the chest or shoulders. Keeping that neutral pelvis, drawing those pelvic points in. Really think about lifting your pubic bone to the belly button here so that we don't arch the low back, which is just tipping the pelvis forward. Walking back to happy squat. Hands will walk back as the heels lower down, finding that dorsiflexion in the ankle so the feet are flexed. Knees are in a flexed position, hips are in a flexed position, but we're not going to drop down. We're going to keep that feeling of a broom behind our back. Squeeze your glutes as you rise to stand. Walking to the top of your mat to check your posture. Head right over the shoulders, over the pelvis. Continuing the reset with sun salutation 1. Have your blocks ready to go if you'd like. Reach the arms forward and up. Shoulder blades lift without the ribs flaring. Exhale, hinge at your hips. Find that same triple flexion. Right foot will step back. Lower the knee and the top of the foot. Lift up for low lunge. Now imagine that triple S here. Arms will dangle. Roll your shoulders back one at a time. So we're moving the shoulder blades, the shoulders and the ribs, but we're not letting anything move in the lower body. Squeeze that right glute, zipper the pubic bone up, goalpost your arms. Draw the shoulder blades onto the back of the ribs without anything changing in the front of the ribs. Pull the front of your throat back so you've still got that triple S in alignment. Lower the hands, step to plank. Check in with that neutral plank, everything from head to pelvis. Draw those pelvic points in, lower the knees. You can untuck the toes. As you exhale, lower with control without letting your shoulders roll forward and touch the ground. Head will come down, press the pubic bone down into the mat, squeeze your glutes, draw the chest through, low cobra. Keep pressing the pubic bone down, lifting the belly up. Tuck the toes, lift back to downward dog. Walk the feet in, lift those hip creases up. We'll step our right foot through the hands. You can lower both knees first, then step the right foot through. Low lunge, check that neutral pelvis, zipper the pubic bone up. Roll the shoulders back one at a time. Noticing any areas that might feel restricted or sticky or noisy. Goalpost the arms. Feel the chest open by drawing the shoulder blades in toward the spine, but knit the front ribs together. Squeeze that left glute. Hands can lower to the ground or to a block or 2 blocks. Left foot steps forward into that forward fold. Really hinge at your hips, bend the knees. Reach the arms forward and up. Shoulder blades lift. Exhale, hinge. Hands can come to the ground or to blocks. Left foot steps back. Lower the knee, but not the toes. Lift up, check that low lunge. Squeeze this left glute. Make that goalpost shape. Fist the hands, and then turn that goalpost on its side. Squeeze the shoulder blades in. So this is a tiny little scapula pulse. We're just working on retracting or squeezing the shoulder blades in without popping the ribs. So hold everything really still and just feel the shoulder blades move in. Keep that neutral pelvis. Hands come down, right foot steps to plank. Check your neutral plank. Lift the front of the throat. Feel the shoulder blades on the back of the ribs. Zipper the pubic bone up. Squeeze your glutes. Lower the knees, you can untuck the toes. Re-zipper the pubic bone, re-lift the throat. Lower in one piece. Once you get down, pubic bone will press down, shoulders stay away from the mat. Draw the chest through, low cobra. Chin towards your throat. Lift to downward dog. Walk your feet in, bend your knees. Lift the front ribs up. Left foot will step through. You can lower the knees first, then step that left foot through, tuck the right toes, lift up, check that low lunge, imagine that broom behind your back, goalpost, make a fist, turn that goalpost forward, squeeze the shoulder blades. So it's just a tiny squeeze. It might barely feel like it's moving, that's okay. We want to make sure we can move the muscles of the upper back without compensating by popping the ribs or moving the thoracic spine. So we're thinking about that broom behind our back. Squeeze that right glute. Hands can come to the blocks or to the ground. Right foot steps to meet the left. Forward fold. Reach the arms forward and up. Release the hands down. Moving on to sequence 1. Inhale the arms forward and up. Shoulder blades glide up toward the ears. Knit those front ribs in. Exhale, hinge. Hands can come to the block or to the ground. Right foot steps back. Lower the knee, but not the toes. Reach the arms up. Low lunge. Lift the scapula into elevation. So we're reaching the shoulder blades toward the ears as we squeeze that right glute. Lift the pubic bone up. We're going to lift from here and turn toward the right side of our mat. So you can do that straight from here, or you can lower hands to the blocks, lift, and then turn toward the side of your mat. Parallel your feet. Arms are going to reach out, make a fist. Side lunge to the right, hinge at that right hip. Keep the feeling of the broom behind your back. Side lunge to the left. Feel your shoulder blades on the back of your ribs. Side lunge to the right. Side lunge to the left. One more, side lunge to the right. Plant the hands at the front of the mat. Lower back to quadruped. Find your neutral quadruped. Unweight that left knee. Circle that left hip in both directions a few times without moving the pelvis. So it's a small circle. We'll come into a variation of modified side plank. We're going to internally rotate this left knee and left hip. So instead of coming into side plank like this with that left knee facing forward, we're going to turn that left knee toward the side of the mat, Step that right foot back. So now our left knee is facing toward the right side of the mat instead of facing forward. Keep that left shoulder over the left wrist crease. Squeeze your left scapula in. Zipper the pubic bone up. Let the ear release. Right arm can reach up if you'd like. Option to lift that right leg if that feels stable without compensating by tipping forward. If that right foot was up, lower it down. Plant the right hand down. We're going to step back to plank. Set up for that neutral plank. Lift the throat. Lower the knees. Lower the rest of the way down. Keep the head of the arm bones away from the ground. We're going to lower all the way down for locust. Hands are going to come right to our glutes as if we're putting hands in our back pockets. Head will come down so you can press your forehead down. Pubic bone will press down. Squeeze those glutes. So just like in bridge, we want to wrap the glutes down toward the heels. Imagine your belly lifting up toward the sacrum. You can lift the legs a tiny bit, but keep lifting the belly up toward the sacrum, keeping the shoulders away from the ground by squeezing the scapula in. Hands come back under your shoulders. Lift from the low belly back to quadruped, back to hands and knees. We're going to extend the left leg back for three-legged quadruped and abduct the hips. So the left leg's going to move out a little bit and back to center. But don't let the pelvis tip. So really hold that neutral spine as you abduct that left hip. So we're really working that outer left hip and left glute. The pelvis is staying neutral. Draw those pelvic points in. Lower back to quadruped. Tuck the toes, head to downward dog. One breath here. Feel free to move around if that feels good. You can either bend your knees, step, or hop your feet forward. Hinging at your hips, find that same triple flexion. Reach the arms forward and up. Second side, exhale, hinge. Hands can come to the block or to the ground. Left foot steps back, lower the knee, but not the toes. Reach the arms up, low lunge. Lift the scapula, but knit those front ribs in. Check in with your breath. We've got that transition coming. We're going to lift and turn toward the left side of the mat for side lunges. Lift right away or use your blocks. Turn toward the side of the mat. Arms reach out, make a fist. Side lunge to the left. Squeeze the shoulder blades onto the back of the ribs and hold them there as you side lunge to the right. Lift the front of the throat. Side lunge to the left. Side lunge to the right. Lift the pubic bone to the belly. One more. Side lunge to the left. Plant the hands at the top of the mat. Lower to quadruped. Set up for that neutral spine. Unweight the right knee. Circle that right hip clockwise and counterclockwise. Really control this movement so that the only thing moving is the right hip and not the pelvis. Coming into that variation of modified side plank, our right knee will stay down, but we're going to turn the right knee toward the left side of the mat. Right shoulder over the wrist crease. Let that right ear release down. Check your neutral pelvis. Zipper up. Maybe left arm reaches up. Stick with this or lift up that left leg. But really hold strong in that right scapula. We're trying to squeeze it in toward the spine. Back to plank. From plank pose, firm your glutes, zipper the pubic bone up, lift the front of the throat. Lower the knees, lower the rest of the way with control, keeping the head of the arm bones away from the ground. Lower all the way for locust, forehead will come down, hands will come to the glutes. Now really encourage the glutes to wrap down toward the heels, which is also going to help keep the low back really long and not let it arch here. Really squeeze the glutes. Imagine that low belly lifting up. You can peel the shoulders away from the ground. Maybe lift the legs, maybe half an inch. Not too high. We want to keep that lift in the low belly. Hands come back under the shoulders. Lift from the low belly back to quadruped. Right leg extends back. Zipper the pubic bone up. Abduct that right hip. So our right leg is going to move out to the side. without anything else moving. Lift the front of your throat. Hold that feeling of the broom behind your back. Really work that outer right hip. Lower to quadruped, tuck your toes, lift for downward dog. One breath here. Feel that 360 breath. Press into the hands. Exhale, bend your knees, walk or hop your feet forward. Hinge at your hips, find that same triple flexion. Reach the arms forward and up. Release it down. Let's do one round of sun salutation A. Reach the arms up, shoulder blades glide up. Exhale, hinge. Plant the hands, step to plank. Find your neutral plank. Knees can be up or down. Draw those pelvic points in, squeeze the glutes. Lower the knees, lower the rest of the way with control, keeping the head of the arm bones away from the ground. Pubic bone presses down, draw the chest through, low cobra. Lift the throat, tuck the toes, lift to downward dog. One breath here. On an exhale, bend your knees, step or hop your feet forward. Hinge at your hips, reach the arms forward and up. Release the arms down. Moving on to sequence 2. Inhale the arms forward and up. Exhale, hinge. Right foot will step back for a crescent lunge. Bend both knees, lift up. Let's bring one hand to the back of the pelvis at the sacrum, one hand to the front of the pubic bone, and really squeeze those hands together, holding that neutral pelvis. We're gonna do our giddy up move, so we're gonna pick up our right foot, hold that neutral pelvis, and try to circle this right hip around to the front, and then step it back. So we don't have to step back into our full high lunge. It can step back a little bit shorter of a stance. And even though our right hip and our right leg is the one moving, I want you to focus on your left leg, so our standing leg that's supporting us. We really want to squeeze that left glute. So we're just going to keep doing this at any pace. I want you to imagine that you're trying to balance something on the top of your head so that your head doesn't tip forward, coming up and down, but instead we're holding that long spine, squeezing that left glute as the right hip circles. And you can just imagine you're putting that left foot in a stirrup, swinging that right leg around to hop on your horse. Giddy up, one more. Right foot will step back, warrior 2, reach the arms out. Reverse, hold that neutral pelvis. Warrior 2, variation. Warrior 2, one more time through, reverse. Warrior 2, hold that neutral pelvis, variation. Back to warrior 2. Turn toward the side of the mat, one side lunge to the right. Now step that right foot forward, left foot steps to the side of the mat, one goddess squat. Step back to the front of the mat, right foot steps back, parallel the feet, side lunge to the right, step it back to the front, left foot steps back, goddess. We're gonna do that one more time. Right foot turns, side lunge, step it back, goddess squat and hold. Goalpost the arms, feel the shoulder blades on the back of the ribs. Hold that neutral pelvis as we rotate the ribs side to side. Really keep that feeling of the broom behind your back. Nice long neutral spine as we rotate. Squeeze your glutes. Turn toward the back of your mat. So we're going to turn to the left, heading into a chair pose. Hinge at your hips. Find that neutral pelvis. Make that goalpost shape with a fist. Squeeze the shoulder blades onto the back of the ribs. Now draw the elbows in so they're just hovering over the knees, and then back out into that goalpost shape. You're going to keep doing that. Elbows will come down. Elbows open out, but don't let the ribs do the moving or the spine. Everything's holding still, but our arms and shoulder blades are moving. Good, lift, step your right foot back, turn back all the way to the front of the mat. Left hand can lower to a block, twisted crescent. Right hip crease moves back. You are welcome to lower that left knee down if that feels better. Now before we rotate, zipper the pubic bone up. Lengthen the spine. Right arm will reach out. Squeeze that left glute. Rotate only in the rib cage, 1 or 2 inches to the right. Lift the belly. Let that left ear release. Think about dialing that left hand out to the side so that we're really stable in that left shoulder blade. Plank pose. Remove that left hand from the block. We're going to come into a wide-legged plank. So take the feet nice and wide in your plank. Lower the knees with the feet wide, and then click the heels together. So from this wide-legged plank, we're going to bring the feet in toward each other. Hold your neutral pelvis so the glutes are squeezing. Lower all the way down with the feet as close together as they can be. They don't have to be all the way on the ground. They might be up a little bit higher. Press the pubic bone down. Cobra with the legs in this position. Really focus on the glutes and lifting that low belly up toward the sacrum. Release it down. Lift back to downward dog. 2 breaths here. Move around if that feels good. You can add some shoulder shrugs, some hip movement side to side. When you're ready, bend your knees. Exhale, step or hop your feet forward. Hinge at your hips. Reach the arms forward and up. Second side, exhale, hinge. Left foot steps back, bend the left knee, lift for that high lunge or that crescent lunge. 1 hand to the front of the pelvis, 1 hand to the back. Now really imagine balancing something on the top of your head. We're going to do that giddy up move. So press into your right foot, squeeze that right glute. Left hip will circle around and then step back. So our lunge can be really small here since we're focusing on that movement in the left hip and holding strong in that right glute. So we don't need to step it back really far. That's going to make it a lot harder to hold that neutral spine and neutral pelvis. Feel that stability of the right glute and right foot as we do this giddy up move with the left hip. Good, check in with the top of the head. Make sure it's not tipping or leaning forward. Imagine trying to balance a cup on your head. Really squeeze that right glute. We're going to do 1 more. Step this left foot back, warrior 2. Reach the arms out. Hold your neutral pelvis. Reverse. Let the ear release to the shoulder. Warrior 2. Variation. Stretch into the left side of the ribs. Warrior 2. 1 more time. Reverse. Warrior 2. Variation. Warrior 2. Straighten that right leg. Parallel the feet facing the left side of the mat. Side lunge to the left. Step your left foot to the top of the mat. Right foot steps back. 1 goddess squat. Right foot steps forward. Left foot steps to the side of the mat. 1 side lunge to the left. Step it forward. Right foot steps out. Goddess. 1 more time. Side lunge. Step it forward. Open to the right side of the mat. Goddess. Check in with that triple S. Goal post your arms. We don't want to round the upper back. We want to feel the scapula on the ribs as we rotate the thoracic spine side to side. Move as slowly, as controlled, and as small as you need to really focus on your alignment, noticing what the body feels like, squeezing the glutes, lifting the pubic bone up. Back to center. Step toward the back of the mat for chair. Hinge at your hips without tipping the pelvis forward. Goal post the arms, make a fist. Now draw the elbows in and then back out so the chest opens. Maybe it feels like a stretch in the front of the shoulders. Keep alternating. Feel the shoulder blades on the back of the ribs. And then the elbows come down. Few more. Try not to round anywhere in the spine. Glutes should be working since we're hinging or flexing at the hips. Straighten the legs. Left foot steps back. Continue to turn to the left, all the way back to the front of the mat. Right hand will come to a block for twisted crescent. You're always welcome to lower that right knee down. Check that left hip crease moves back, pubic bone lifts up, left arm reaches out, rotating only in the rib cage. Let the ear release to the shoulder. Lift your belly, squeeze that right glute. Let the head release. One more breath in twisted crescent. Lower the hands, remove the block. Step to that wide-legged plank. Feet nice and wide. Keep the feet wide as you lower the knees. And then bring the feet together. Zipper that pubic bone up. Squeeze the glutes as you lower down. Draw the chest through. Squeeze the glutes, lift the belly, lift the front of the throat. Release the legs, lift back to downward dog. 2 breaths here. Check that 360 breath. Lift your hip creases, lift the front of the ribs. On an exhale, you can step or hop forward. Hinge at the hips. Check that triple flexion. Reach the arms forward and up. Release the arms down. Moving on to sequence 3. Inhale the arms forward and up. Exhale, hands to your heart. Flex your right hip. Squeeze that left glute. We'll head into a half moon. Bend that left knee. Let the pelvis open toward the right. We're flexing that left hip, so left hip crease moves back, back, back. Open the chest. Hands can stay at the heart. If you've got a block, you can place the block on the highest setting. Really feel that long spine here. Zipper the pubic bone up. Maybe that right arm reaches up. Release that right foot down. Turn toward the back of your mat. So our right foot is in front. Bent leg airplane or bent leg warrior 3. Right hip crease will move back. Hover forward without rounding the back. So think about that broom behind your back. Unweight that left leg. It doesn't have to lift very high. Hold the pelvis neutral so that we don't tip forward just to lift the leg. One more breath here. Lift the front of the throat. Step that left foot back. Turn toward the side of the mat. Goddess. This time we're going to roll the shoulders in goddess. Holding that long spine. Zippering the pubic bone up. Turn back to the front of the mat. Plant the hands for plank. Regular plank. Lower the knees. Lower the rest of the way without the head of the arm bones rolling forward. Head will lower down for locust. Arms come along the sides of your body. Press the pubic bone down. Draw the belly up toward the sacrum. Peel the shoulders away from the ground. Maybe lift the legs. Hold that squeeze in the glutes. Hands come back under the shoulders. Tuck the toes, lift from the low belly, back to downward dog. Once we get to downward dog, we're going to crouch it. So we'll let the knees and toes face the left. Maybe sitting back into the hips a little bit without collapsing in the chest. Turn the knees and toes to the right. Maybe start to sit back into the hips, but keep the arms really strong. Try that a few more times. We're keeping the weight in the arms. We're not letting the chest drop. We're just moving in the knees and the hips, which might feel like a nice stretch along the sides of the torso or the low back, maybe around the QL. As you exhale, bend your knees, walk or hop your feet forward, hinge at the hips, reach the arms forward and up. Exhale, hands to heart, flex the left hip. Heading into that half moon. Turn the pelvis to the left, bend that right knee. We don't want the right knee moving forward. We want the right hip crease moving back. So we're flexing that right hip, flex the left foot. So dorsiflex that left foot, pull the toes back toward the shin. Right hand can come to a block, or you can stay here. Any option for your half moon. Just like modified side plank, zipper the pubic bone up. Left foot will step back, turn to the back of the mat. Left foot is in front. Bent leg airplane or bent leg warrior 3. Left hip moves back. Zipper the pubic bone up as you unweight the right leg. Try not to collapse and round the back. Knit those front ribs in. Lift the front of the throat. Really working the glutes, especially that left side. Right foot steps back, turn to the side of the mat, goddess squat. Roll the shoulders back. Hold that neutral pelvis. Turn back to the front of the mat, plank pose. Find your neutral plank. Lift the throat. Squeeze the glutes, draw those pelvic points in. Lower the knees, lower the rest of the way without the shoulders rolling forward. Arms to your sides for locust, forehead comes down. Draw the belly up toward the sacrum, squeeze the glutes. Retract the scapula to lift the shoulders away from the ground. Hands come back under the shoulders. Tap the toes, lift to downward dog. Add that crouching movement side to side if that feels good while you're in downward dog. Good. Keep the arms nice and straight. Keep lifting those front ribs up. As you exhale, bend your knees, step or hop your feet forward. Reach the arms forward and up. Release the arms down. Moving on to the stream where we'll sequence all those three together. Reach the arms forward and up as you inhale. Exhale, hinge. Hands can come to the ground or to a block. Right foot steps back, lower the knee but not the toes. Reach the arms up, make a fist with both hands, and really lift the shoulder blades up. Zipper the pubic bone up and squeeze that right glute. Just checking with that right hip flexor or front of the right hip. Notice if you're getting a stretch. We're going to take this left arm, circle it without moving the spine. So it's a tiny circle, it's a controlled movement, so we're not just swinging the arm, we're holding the core nice and strong, squeezing that left glute, squeezing that right glute. Lower the hands down, right knee will scoot even closer to the right hand, left foot steps back, modified side plank, zipper the pubic bone up. Left arm reaches up, right ear releases down. Feel free to lift that leg, but really suction that right shoulder blade onto the back of the ribs. Lower down, head to downward dog. From downward dog, similar to that giddy up move where we circle the hip, we're gonna unweight the left foot, doesn't need to be high. Circle that left hip like that same giddy up motion and then step it forward a little bit. Unweight the right foot, circle that right hip, step it forward. So it's a way we're gonna walk to the top of our mat slowly. So really keep the weight in your hands. Left foot will stay down, hands come to a block or both blocks, standing split. So our left foot is in front, left hip crease moves back. Unweight that right foot, just float it up, but we're not gonna lift and tip the pelvis. Zipper the pubic bone up. Think about cobra, drawing the chest through the hands, lifting the front of the throat, lifting the pubic bone to the belly. You can either tap that right foot down or keep it lifted as we rise to stand. Flexing that right hip. Hands come to front and back of the pelvis. Tap that right foot down for our giddy up move. Circle that right hip around. Step it back to that small lunge. Now really focus on that left foot, pressing into the ground, squeezing that left glute as we circle the right hip. Imagine balancing something on the top of the head so that we're not tempted to tip the head up and down, but instead just hold that neutral spine. Few more here. On the last one, we're going to circle this right hip, flex the foot, head into a figure four. Hinge at that left hip. So left hip crease moves back. Don't tip the pelvis here. Lengthen out that low back. Zipper the pubic bone up. Dorsiflex that right foot. Pull the toes back toward the shin. Heading into half moon. Flex that right hip. Open up for half moon. Any option, just like modified side plank. Zipper the pubic bone up. Really dorsiflex that right foot. Toes pull back toward the shin. Left glute is working really hard. Either look down or straight in front of you. Right foot lowers, warrior two. Reverse. Warrior two, zipper the pubic bone up, variation. Back to warrior two. Straighten that left leg, parallel the feet. Side lunge to the right, right hip crease moves back without tipping the pelvis. Step it to the top of the mat. Step your left foot out, goddess. Left foot steps forward, right foot steps back. Side lunge to the right, step it forward. Left foot steps out to the other side, goddess. One more time, step the left foot forward. Right foot steps back, side lunge. Step the right foot forward. Left foot steps out to goddess. Plant the hands for plank. Find your neutral plank. Lift the throat. Zipper the pubic bone up. Squeeze the glutes. Lower the knees. Untuck the toes. Lower the rest of the way down. We're going to add on to our locust. Arms are going to come right to our glute med, which is right on the side of the glutes or the hips, and you can just poke your fingers in there. Press the pubic bone down. Imagine the belly lifting up toward the sacrum. We're going to lift the legs just a tiny bit and abduct both hips, so our legs are going to move apart a little bit, and then squeeze them in. Do this at any pace, but keep the pubic bone down. So we've got to keep that neutral pelvis so that we don't arch in the low back. And our fingers are really there to just keep our awareness on the outer hips and make sure our brain knows that that's the thing that's moving, is our hips. We're abducting, they're moving away from center and then back toward each other. Release it down, tuck the toes, lift to down dog. Maybe add that crouching if that feels good while you're in down dog. Just keep that feeling of everything lifting up and not letting anything sink or drop down. On an exhale, bend your knees, step or hop your feet forward, hinging at the hips. Reach the arms forward and up. Second side, exhale, hinge. Left foot steps back, lower the knee, not the toes. Lift up for low lunge. Make a fist with both hands. Glide the scapula up toward the ears. Zipper the pubic bone up. Squeeze that left glute. Right arm is going to circle. Hold the pelvis steady. So there's a little bit of that thoracic rotation to the right as the right arm circles. But we're keeping that triple S. So imagine that broom behind your back. Keep drawing those pelvic points in. Lower the hands, scoot that left knee even closer to the hand. You can kick it out to the side. Modified side plank. Left ear releases to the shoulder. Dial that left hand to the left. So we're dialing that left hand into the ground, feeling that left scapula on the ribs. Zipper the pubic bone up. Squeeze the glutes. You can lift that right leg if you'd like. Lower it down, head back to downward dog. Take a big breath here. We're going to do that circle walk to the top of the mat where we circle one hip and then step it forward. If that's not really an option today, you can slowly just walk one foot at a time, keeping the weight in the arms up to the top of the mat, or add that hip circle. It's teeny tiny. We're not turning the pelvis. We're just circling the hip, making our way back to the top of the mat. Right foot will stay down. Blocks can come under the hands. Left leg comes back for standing split. Now really draw the chest through, lift the front of the throat, zipper the pubic bone up. Right hip crease moves back because the right hip is flexing. Left glute is firing. You can either tap the left foot down and then rise to stand, or from here, rise up, flexing that left hip. Hands come front and back of the pelvis. Left foot steps back for your small lunge. Giddy up move on that left hip. Focus on pressing down into that right foot and squeezing the right glute. So you can actually focus less on the left hip, which is the one circling, and focus more on the stability of your right foot, right leg, and right glute. Imagine that broom behind your back. Try to balance something on the top of the head. One more. We're going to circle it around. Flex the foot, figure four. Right hip crease moves back. Right hip flexes. Zipper the pubic bone up. Notice if you're rounding here and really keep that long spine. Pull the left toes back toward the shin. Heading to half moon of any kind. Left leg moves back. Hands can stay at the heart. Arms can reach. You can bring a hand to the block. And just like modified side plank, zipper up. Draw those pelvic points in. Gaze down. Don't look up. That'll make balancing even more challenging. Use the glutes. Give them a nice squeeze. Left foot steps back. Warrior two. Reverse. Back to warrior two. Variation. Back to warrior two. Straighten. Turn toward the side of the mat. One side lunge to the left. Step the left foot forward. Right foot steps back. One goddess squat. Right foot steps to the top of the mat. Left foot steps back. Side lunge to the left. So we're alternating sides of the mat. Right foot steps back. Goddess. Step the right foot forward. Left foot steps back. Side lunge to the left. Step it forward. Right foot steps back. Goddess. Pause here. Turn to the front of the mat. Plank pose. Find your neutral plank. Knees can be up or down. Really imagine that broom behind your back. Lower the knees. Lower the rest of the way with control. Head will come down. Fingers come to the glute med right on the outer part of the hip. Press the pubic bone down. Lift the belly up. Maybe lift the legs. Add those hip abductions where the feet move apart. And then squeeze them together. But we're really working the outer hips. We're working that deep low belly, those core muscles. Hands come back under the shoulders. Tuck your toes, downward dog. Take a few breaths here. Maybe add a little bit of that crouching. You can add some shoulder shrugs. Lifting the shoulder blades up and down, whatever feels good. Lower to quadruped. Take a few rounds of cat-cow. When you're ready, make your way onto your back. Checking that triple S, back of the skull, shoulder blades and sacrum on the mat. Hug your knees in toward your chest. Rock side to side on the sacrum. Slow the breath down. Make your way into any option for Shavasana. Legs can extend out. Knees can stay bent. See what feels best in the knees and the low back. Come back to whatever your natural breath is. Notice how you feel in your mind, your body, and your energy. Take a moment to thank yourself, mind, body, and spirit for your practice today. Staying here as long as you'd like.